Hello. This is Tech Talk Tuesday, which is the masterclass day of the week for the Tech Talk group, and the Tech Talkers lurking. Who do we have here? Christian and Carlos and Carlos Perez, Christian Eric Dahlberg, James Melvin Smallwood Allen, Billy Cummings, Ron Waterlight, and I thought I saw Joseph Carbone in there earlier, but he seemed to have disappeared. And we have Randy, who was there earlier. He's not there now. Maybe he'll come back later. I guess people come in and out. Some people are at work when this happens, but it's going to be archived anyway. So this is Tech Talk Tuesday, and welcome. And I know you're looking at syncopation, but that's not what the lesson is about today, really. It's about paradiddles. Today's going to be about paradiddles. Now, paradiddles, I approach paradiddles in two lessons. It's really two lessons. To me, it's two lessons. I like to separate the paradiddle and just teach the paradiddle itself. And then after that's accomplished, I deal with the accentuation part of the paradiddle. So we'll try to do it all today. And I think it's very important that we learn how the concept of the paradiddle, unattached to an accent. It doesn't really have anything to do with the accent. It's the sticking, I think, that counts, and that we need to learn how to do smoothly and evenly before we even put an accent on it. Accents are something it's a dynamic, and we add dynamics after we accomplish execution. Then we can add dynamics. So everything is a choice. And the way I look at the paradiddle from the first point of view, which is going to be just a straight paradiddle now, we're not going to talk about accents for a while. I look at it as a hybrid rudiment. I know that sounds strange to a lot of people because it's such a basic rudiment, but I'm not talking about in terms of the 26 or the 13. I'm talking about a binary language of right and left. And the first rudiment, primary rudiment, is the single stroke roll. I'll start hitting the pad now. It's really simple. Everybody knows what a single stroke roll is. It's also stick control number 1. And number 2 is going the other direction. And the second primary rudiment is the double stroke roll, which is number 3. It's very fundamental. And number 4 is the controls. And then the third primary rudiment is the flam. That's it. Those are the only 3 rudiments that are fundamental. Everything else, to me, is this is computer language. It's either there's three commands in machine language for the computer, which is on, off, or switch, and that's it. And those 3 commands create the entire world you're looking at now. It's the same thing with rudiments. There are 3 fundamentals. This and this. All the other rudiments are based on that. And the first hybrid from the fundamentals is the paradiddle, which is a combination of those 2 fundamentals. And so that's 2/3 of our technical world, right in the paradiddle. 2/3 of everything. All we have to do is make it a flam paradiddle, and you have our entire world. It's really everything that exists, singles, doubles, and flams. Everything else is something like that. So to me, the paradiddle is a melding of the singles and the doubles. And this is part of the idea of stick control. When I go for my singles into my doubles, if I was to shorten that pattern, it's a 2-bar pattern, so let's make it a 1-bar pattern. What happens if I make it a 1-bar pattern? What if I make it a 1/2-bar pattern? What if I make it a 1/4 bar pattern, or 1 pulse, 1 pattern per pulse now? Okay, that is one more simplification we can make. We're down to a 1/2 pulse. This is what that looks like, yeah, pulse. And that's the paradiddle. It's taking the singles and the doubles and bringing the execution of changing your technique from one to the other closer and closer together until you're alternating exactly next to each other. Continuously changing. There's 2 different techniques. There's a single stroke technique and there's a double stroke technique. And the entire stick control book is about learning how to do this under any circumstances. But really, all of that is going to help your paradiddles, because the paradiddle is all based upon changing the technique from one fundamental rudiment to the other fundamental rudiment in a hybrid rudiment manner. And that's what a paradiddle is. So I highly recommend, if you want to get better paradiddles, is to use stick control and get control of the sticks, and you can practice. And you can practice going from singles to doubles to paradiddles to singles to doubles to or do it this way. You do a little more double work that way. And that's what the paradiddle is to me. That's how I look at it. And I want to get my paradiddle to sound like a single stroke roll. That's That's what I want. So now I want to change subjects. I'd like to talk about Tony Arco and Jim Rainier. They're both. I posted a Tony Arco a video about a single stroke roll, and he presented a way of looking at the single stroke roll that I haven't seen many people. I haven't seen anybody actually present it this way. It happens to agree with the way with a lot of my presentation on technique in general. I mean, I think Tony did a marvelous job with the single stroke roll, and he presented this idea of gear changing, of the first gear and the second gear and the third gear. When you're playing singles, when you're using. And I've talked about this before. I talk about it as levels or stages of execution, of technique. His gear one is the separated free stroke. This is gear one. And he talked about, as you accelerate this, the space between each note gets shorter and shorter. So there's no time between to stop, and then it becomes a continuous motion. And you call that gear two. And that's really all I need now. And then he talked about gear three. Which is really mostly fingers. We talk about, but I don't look at it as a gear. For me, changing a gear is like on a standard shift car. There we go. We're in second. Okay, now we're in third. That's not how I see it. I see how our body works is more like an automatic transmission where all the gears are in tune with each other. So I could use this gear or this ability of using my wrists separated. Or I could use the ability to do what he calls second gear, but it's not, to me it's not a gear change, it's just an extension of one. So that the difference between 1 and 2 is, you're not supposed to be able to see the change. It's supposed to be a nice smooth, it's not a gear shift, it's a transition. And same thing when you go from this gear to what he calls third gear. I don't go directly into it. I can use different amounts of the finger and then shift back to different amounts of my wrist. You can see it changes the sound. Because I'm changing the mass structure of what's behind the stroke. Without changing the speed of the stroke, without changing the height of the stroke, I can change the texture and the volume of the stroke to a certain degree. Hello? So I agree totally with what he's saying, but I disagree with the outlook of being a gear change. It's not there's no clutch. All the gears are engaged all the time, but we can choose how much of which gear we're going to use, how much of each gear we're going to use. Now, I also mentioned Jim Rainier, who's a new member of the group, and a classical musician, excellent, technician. I haven't seen him play in an orchestra, but I'm sure he's very capable. Timpanist, judging from his experiential knowledge. And he showed us a technique that I don't think many people have seen, that he developed from his classical viewpoint. with a classical teacher that he studied with, who gave him some direction. And he started using what he calls finger bounce, or multiple rebounds on one finger stroke. And I think that these two concepts belong together. And the reason I think that Tony didn't make the last step into his gear 4, or my, stage 4 technique, is because he was working with singles, and singles don't have a fourth level because singles don't have multiple rebounds. It's a single rebound on each stroke. That's what defines a single. And what defines a double is the multiple. So the double really is what gives you the 4th stage, or the 4th gear. And you can't do it playing singles because it doesn't exist. So, now coming from the other side of the coin, and what Jim has done is he's isolated pretty much 4th gear to a high expertise. And if you add that in, if you look at the roll, and anything with a diddle starts to touch upon this 4th level of technique. First level being the stop, second level being the continuous, the third level being the fingers, and the 4th level being the multiple bounce. Or the triple bounce, or the quadruple, whatever. Anything more than one rebound on a finger stroke or a wrist stroke. My thing is integrated. I don't look at it as just a finger technique. To me, it's an integrated technique that involves your fingers and your wrists and your arms and your ass and your feet if you're standing. So now we have these two concepts I talked about, whereas the paradiddle, the challenge of the paradiddle, but the hybrid nature of the paradiddle forces you into a situation where you need to learn how to shift gears or change the way you execute tactically in about as quickly a manner as possible, because they're right next to each other on every pulse. And change, sing, constantly changing. And because of this, and then if you add the idea of this gear system, it's based upon acceleration, which is based upon the space between the notes that are left to execute. The faster the tempo of the subdivision, I guess impossible to throw it that quick enough to have enough time to stop at the top. And a lot of work. This is a lot easier to do. But at a very slow tempo, it doesn't matter at all. It's all stage 1. When you first do stick control, when you do number 5, it doesn't sound, or you do number 3, it doesn't sound like a double sharp roll. It doesn't sound like a paradiddle to you. But this is the paradiddle. But it's so slow, I have no choice but to stop and catch every stroke, which is the object stick control. You see, if he wants you to do all 72 like that. And if I would do it this way, with my back to you, and I test you and say which one am I doing, you're not supposed to be able to tell me which one I'm doing from hearing it. Only if you look at it, you might be able to figure it out if you know what the exercises are. You know. So when you're playing a paradiddle this slowly, you're not working with the challenge of changing from one technique to another. Now you get to a point, because one of these has one every other one. This could be played twice as fast as this one, right? Now you're seeing the two techniques next to each other. Two different techniques. I'm stopping every other one, and then I don't have the time to stop, I continue motion with the other. So when I'm doing a paradiddle at that tempo, I reach the stage where I need to employ my second stage. I need to change stages from first stage to second stage. My singles are here. I can stop easily. Or I can go. I have a choice at that tempo with the singles, but I have no choice with the second stage. Now I'm starting to reach my limit. When I bring up the tempo a little more, I hit the wall with my wrist. I have to bring the height down and help it get softer and all that. But eventually my wrists are getting tired trying to do those doubles, not because they're not fast enough, but because they just use a large muscle group. So I start to want to add a smaller muscle group and take away some responsibility from the larger muscle group. It causes me to use less energy that way, and I can adjust between the two muscle groups as they accelerate. Till important. Now here's my stage 3 doubles. My singles are now in stage 2. I separated for you. Here's my singles. I'm doing stage 2 singles, no fingers. Here's my stage 3 with fingers. And then if I speed it up further, I have to go into what Jim Ranier was talking about, which is the double bounce. Now I am using fingers on my singles at this speed, but I'm doing a stage 4 with the doubles. It's very hard to do this evenly unless I work into it. I usually spend an hour getting to this point. So, and then it really sounds like a single stroke roll at that speed. And I'm just giving you the concepts that I'm using to get to this. So that's basically how I build a paradiddle, how I look at it. It's a hybrid of singles and doubles. And the required skill is to be able to change techniques from stage 1 to a stage 2, or from a stage 2 to a stage 3, or stage 3 to a stage 4, depending on the tempo. And the whole idea is to get and be able to execute a paradiddle without an accent, as if it was a double stroke roll or as if it was a single stroke. You know, the whole concept of this technique is that your singles and your doubles and your paradiddles should all sound the same. And if you look at Joe Morello's book, I think he has, in Master Studies, he has an exercise. I could find it and show it to you, but you don't need to even see it. I've showed it to you. It's so simple. You know, a bar of singles. Or the doubles back and forth. Well, one thing I like to do, you might have seen some of the videos of this, is I find a very effective way of developing this ability to change from singles from 1 to 2, or from 2 to 3, or even 3 to 4 eventually. Is the control book itself, and I try to help myself. I eliminate the patterns in the book of 3s and 4s, and I isolate just the 1s and 2s, like 1 through 8, and I'll jump 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, and then I'll pick it up to 14 on the next column and go through all the singles and doubles, you know, and I'll eliminate the end of the page except for the last one, which is all doubles. And I can do that on all 3 pages. And it's a great way to get comfortable with these changes from any sticking position you might be in. Yeah, so I'll do it a little bit slower so you can see the changes. I do it so fast you can't see what I'm doing. You can't hear it either. I do the same interpretation for all 3 pages. I just drop out all the multiples. Now you've seen what that looks like. Let me do it more to a tempo I might be doing it at. I'm not going to press it. It's 120. I do it a lot further than this, but I just don't want to push it without working into up there. I have to work up to these tempos. That's pretty much, that was 120. All right. Let's push it. In that case, if that was 120. Really? 144? Oh, I can't believe I'm this loose already. By the way, I might do more than 1 repeat. I might do 4 repeats. So it might take a long while. I'm not doing a lot of repeats on camera. It'd be boring seeing me just doing everything so long. So I'm just going to go through it once. twice. Alright, we start for the second page, I'll do it twice each. I really like to do that. Really, that will really help your paradiddles. Now, I'm going to get some water. I'm going to change gears. And we're going to talk about accents. So now that we've accomplished paradiddles, let's put some accents on it. So now we have to talk about another kind of a stroke. Up to now, I showed you George Stone's free stroke. And you see it at all the levels. Full stroke is just a level designation. Half stroke is a level designation. Quarter stroke is a level designation. There's levels all the way in between. It's an analog arc. But for practice purposes and learning purposes, and we separated, well, Georgia separated into 3 levels, which is a power level, a normal stroke level, half stroke, and then a quarter stroke, which she defined for grace notes, drags, roughs, flams. So your accents are on the top, full, your drags and flams, grace notes on the bottom and quarter, and all your other strokes are in the middle. So it's a 3-level dynamic system. We don't need to deal with the 3rd level. The first 2 levels really set up the accentuation. I'm not going to do any grace notes today. So I need to talk about a 2nd stroke. This first stroke is the free stroke, which happens at all levels. Definition being that whatever level it starts at, it goes to. It's free. You don't mess with it. When we mess with it as little as we can. And wherever it starts, that's where it winds up. I mean, there's millions of free positions, but we use 3 of them to practice with. So there's another stroke where we want to get from one level to another cleanly, because I mean, usually what happens is it's pretty much easy to go through the levels, but when we're accenting, we're jumping from one level to another very cleanly. That's how we get a nice clean. It's a subito, dynamic change. Both ways. It's subito loud and subito soft. Suddenly loud, suddenly soft. That's an accent. But you see what I had to do. I had to make a bigger stroke. So I needed to get up and change my level. So I started here. I need to get up so that I'm set up now. Now I can play a loud stroke. I can't play a loud stroke. I can play a louder stroke from down here than I play, but I can't play as loud a stroke as I can play from up here very easily. With the same amount of energy practically. I'm using the same mass. And what's happening is because of the height change, I have more distance to accelerate in. So the speed of the stick striking the head is a lot faster, and that causes more energy, which causes more vibrations and rebounding of everything. So we're working with two different sounds. I'm not squeezing, I just have a loud sound. And I have the soft sound. And there's really no difference to me. And the difference is my rotational arc is bigger. And I might have to use more energy to cover more space, but I'm not, and get it to move a little quicker. But I'm also using a lot of the natural energy generated by the momentum of the stick from the stroke that's already in motion. So that's called an upstroke. When I do that, so it's free, and then it's free, and then it's free, and then it's up. There's no change in the sound. There's just a change in the position, but a nice clean change. And the idea is to get up there is immediately after you get done with the last stroke. You're going to play softly and get in position for that last stroke as soon as you can. No matter how much time you have, you want to get into the habit of getting there as soon as possible. As soon as you get there, the faster you can play that accent. And you may not need to do it at a slow tempo, but if you get in the habit of preparing yourself, you get to be a good Boy Scout in your approach, and then you'll find that it's always a lot easier to accent when you're already there waiting, or when there's not enough time to get ready. You get there, quicker than most because you're used to doing that. So, but when you're playing loud, though, you may want to change. You want to go back to soft. Like I said, there's a super toe loud, and then there's a super toe soft. So the super toes, and this makes the super toe. That makes the super toe. The next stroke is directly from soft to loud. That's the super toe as it gets. There's no build in the dynamic whatsoever. Then the super toe soft is the exact opposite. It has to immediately get softer after the loud. Downstroke, so it's a free, down, no change in the sound. Volume came from the position we didn't change. The volume shouldn't change unless I change the speed, and you shouldn't change the speed. We don't want the strokes to sound the same, so you don't have the same speed. And now I can play these. So this is half, up, full, down, up, full, down, up, full, down. So we get into the habit of making this change in dynamic as fully and as cleanly as we can. So we have our full stroke or free stroke, we have our half stroke, our free stroke, and we have our control stroke, which is our downstroke. We have our control stroke, which is an upstroke, and we have our full stroke, which is our loud stroke. We have our half stroke, which is our soft stroke. Well, all of those things happen in a paradiddle. In one paradiddle. I'm going to show this to you now. I'm going to start with my right hand in an up position, and my left hand in a hand position, in a full position, in a hand position on the left hand. And I've got an accent on the right hand, so I'm going to play from here first. The next stroke of the right hand is not going to be an accent, so I'm going to use a down stroke. And the next stroke on the paradiddle is going to be a tap, a half stroke. But I need to get prepared for the next accent on the left side, so I'm not going to play a tap or free. I'm going to do an upstroke. Now I've got two taps on the right hand. They can be separated, they can be continuous, they can be with fingers, they can be with bounce. Now I'm ready for the left hand side, which is going to be a downstroke for the accent, an upstroke to prepare myself for the next accent, and 2 taps on the diddle, which is either separated or continuous, or fingered, balanced. And I'm going to do it in rhythm now. Down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up. You can see how I'm changing my my technique as it gets faster and faster, and height comes down, and space gets smaller in between, and the up and down strokes start merging together, just like the separated strokes start merging together into continuous as we get faster. That's what happens. And then we can change that accent by shifting. Tap, down, tap, up, tap, down, tap, up, tap. Alright, so now we can talk about the grid. So now we can approach this to the grid. And this is the beginning of accenting. This is the way we first learn it. This is the way George designed it to do it this way, and this is fine. You can accent. There's no accent combination that can't be done this way. And it's all wrist. Of course, we add arms to it, and what I do is a combination of arms and wrists, and full strokes and forearm strokes, and so I start to whip the accents. Okay? Really good stuff to do this. Okay, let me pick that up a little bit for you so you get the idea. We can continue to go up with that, but you can see the way my technique is changing as we get faster. Now, The next stage is what happens when you have two accents in a row. For instance, the double paradiddle, you can play two ways. That's not the two ways I mean, but that's also two technical ways. But either way, I'm only playing one accent, which is fun. What happens if I want to play two? Or three? Right? So if I'm using the stone method, I have to use a free stroke instead of a downstroke the first time on the first accent. Free, down, up. Free, down, free, down, free, down, free. If I'm using arms, then that's different. It's the whip. It's only good for the first one. So I gotta go into a free stroke right into the arm whip and do a regular downstroke at that point. But I'm adding my forearm mass because I had my, so it can match the mass of the whip stroke. So I use my arm for the first one. I gotta use my arm for the second one. So I'm using a combination of a whip, a free stroke, return to full position, and then a forearm. There's three things going on there. Alright, so Charlie Wilcoxon in the Wind Metal Swing book, I don't have this electronically, but he wrote a paradiddle series that brings you through the sum of not all of the problems. I added the problem he's missing. Right? So what he did was give you the first paradiddle, and we learned that, and then he gives you the second grid position. And then he goes into a change of sticking from this to this. Because he wants to do two accents in the middle of the paradiddle. Then he goes back to the regular paradiddle. And then there's the two accents at the end of the paradiddle. And then he reverses that completely and puts it at the front of the paradiddle by inverting the sticking but keeping the accents on the diddle. So that looks now like this. It starts like the grid, but really has some nice double accents in it. Very nice. The only thing Charlie missed was a double accent combination on the third inversion of the paradiddle, which you didn't cover, which I'm going to add in now, and you'll see the difference. And then at the end of this sequence, he has a triplet form of the paradiddle. put the metronome on so I don't have to tap my foot. Not doing it that fast. Let's do it slow. And then we'll do it fast, okay? Okay, now let's do a little faster. One, two. Faster. I'm not even looking. Faster? Alright, let's stop this now. I didn't get to the syncopation book. Because now, the next phase after this, now that you've seen how I approach the paradiddle as a rudiment, as a hybrid rudiment, and you've seen the way I approach accentuation, and now you've seen the way that's applied to the paradiddle. I want to show you how this paradiddle, the whole thing, applies to the syncopation book. And I got 6 minutes left to do this now. So I can only introduce it. I can't. All right, let's, I don't want to get deep into it. This is 33, which is really where he starts. Yeah, okay, I guess no, let's do the next page because it's more disciplined. 33, so we went 34. What's the set? 2, I went sorry, 30. No, I went set 1, 30, 33. Yeah, that's it. Okay. All right. So this is the way I approach this with paradiddles is well. First of all, there's a lot of ways to do this with paradiddles. You can choose what you want to do. So if I give you one that works, fine. But you can find others. We're talking about singles and doubles. We're talking about diddles and paras. And the paras set up the accents, and the diddles set up the spaces. Basically, that's what's happening. So I look at the first bar. I can say, okay, give me a right-handed double and a left-handed double, and then a right-handed single, and that sets me up to do the reverse on the next bar. So it becomes a 2-bar pattern. it's a syncopated word. This is a displacement. He starts displacing it, but it's still great. So the second one would be a single paradiddle followed by two double paradiddles into the reverse again. And then another displacement again. Wow, actually, it's slightly different. This is going to start with two single paradiddles, and then you go into the pattern of the two doubles and a single, two doubles and a single. It starts a little different. The next line is really simple. It starts with a double paradiddle, and then you just triple away. And this has got a double to begin with and a bunch of singles, then the triples and singles, and triples and singles. Number 6 gets a little tricky. You got to start with a diddle. And then you got a paradiddle diddle every time. And then that's reversed. Two singles. Into the diddle. Into the double. Oh, now this one here, there's a lot of ways to do it. I could use all diddles in the spaces if I want to. Or now I'm using a triple paradiddle with a single accent, but in the middle of the diddle. Now I'm doing it with the diddle right in front of the accent. Oh. Two paradiddle diddles. No, it's two a paradiddle diddle, a paradiddle, and a double paradiddle. Oh man, that's good. using an inverter stick. You get the idea. Yeah! You get the idea. I'm going to stop. I'm over an hour now. I almost got the whole page. So that's just the beginning. I mean, we can go through the whole thing. I guess I'm going to have to do another master and go through this on the syncopation book itself. But I think this is enough. You guys can take it from here. You see what the idea is, right? Okay. End. Sorry, I went over time today. So much material to do. So, thanks for watching. And thank you, Frank, for the thumbs up. I got a thumbs up from Frank in the chat room. And I hope this... Good, Ron DeAngelis. Liked it? Good. So I guess it helps some people. So it was worth doing. Good. And so again, I'm gonna sign off and ask you to keep practicing until I come back and see you again. Okay.